We are off and running on the Football Friday edition here of the Lombardi Line. Dave Ross and Michael Lombardi here with you. And week number 11 is also off and running already. We had Thursday Night Football last night, Michael, with the Eagles getting the money. 26-18 is the final. And, boy, I almost texted you, Michael, because, we were talking about that hook all week at 3.5, right? And keeping that 3.5. Then we saw 4s, 4.5, and I'm going, what is going on with this thing right before kickoff? But the Eagles do get it done here. The under cashes as well. What's your quick takeaway from it? And I guess that money move at the end proved to be the correct one.
Well, I think we saw one team that's rebuilding their program and have had the fortunate to win some games. The Hail Mary certainly was a lucky play. But I think at the end of the day, Washington isn't to the same level that the Philadelphia Eagles are. And I thought that going into the game, I thought the 3.5 was always a little bit of a lie. I think they're trying to get you to take it, even though they're going to win more. If Jake Elliott made a few field goals early, this even would have been close. But to me, I think Washington still has a long way to go. They're just not good enough up front. We saw that in their offensive line last night. The quarterbacks kind of hit that rookie wall a little bit, I think that happens. They've got 2 more games before the bye week. But more than anything, this was a game that the Eagles were going to dominate on offense, right? There was no way Washington, they tried to play an overhang front. They did as many things as they could do to try to stop the Eagles from running the ball. But look, let's face it, even when you thought you had them stopped, Barkley got 8 yards on first down. Mm-hmm. I think a lot of the first half was the Eagles really trying to insist on throwing the ball, trying to get their passing game going, when if they just turned around and handed the ball off to Barkley, he was going to make plays.
Yeah.
And eventually they did that in the second half. To me, you asked the question, what's the ceiling for this Eagle team? I think, look, this Eagle team is very reminiscent of the Eagle team that went to the Super Bowl in 22. Why? Because Miles Sanders was dominating the game. Saquon Barkley's dominating the game here. 43-yard pass on a check down. Nobody tackled him. 2 big runs in the fourth quarter. And you just got to keep scratching your head saying, John Mara, I feel bad for you, but you let this happen. You let this happen. You gave them the best player on their team. You gave them the best player for nothing. For nothing.
In the division, too.
So, to me, this is the bed you lay in. I think the Eagles are good. But we have to have a conversation, Dave. We've lost our minds. You know that, right?
Oh, yeah.
We've lost our minds.
Can I guess what you're going to say?
We've lost our
12-10.
Well, you tell me. I mean, we've lost our minds completely.
12-10, fourth quarter. You've got second in inches, and then you lose yardage. It's 3rd and 1. You can't get the 3rd and 1. You're down 2 in the fourth quarter on the road, and then you go for it on 4th and 1. You don't get it. Why don't you take
We've lost our minds, Dave.
Do you take the points?
And, of course, everybody thinks it was the right call.
No.
Of course it's the right call. Go for it, go for it, go for it. Okay, here's what I have a real issue with. If we kick the field goal there, go up 13-12, I am not saying by any means possible that the game's over at that point and we're going to hold them to no points for the rest of the game. I'm not saying that at all. But what I am saying is it puts us in position to then have a chance to get the ball back. Okay, we get the ball back, and now we have a chance to get them off balance because of that one extra point that becomes a little bit of infuriating when you're in the game. They're going to have to go for 2. What are they going to have to do, right? Oh. It's a little bit of a nuisance. It's like a pool player who makes a shot but brings the cue ball back to make the harder shot, right? That's what they're trying to do. It was stupid. It made no sense whatsoever. There was one, you're going to get another possession.
Oh, yeah.
What are we doing? Collect points.
And didn't they realize that Jake Elliott couldn't make a kick yesterday? If you take a 1-point lead, who's to say that if the Eagles don't score a touchdown, that he's going to make a kick to put the Eagles back ahead? He'd missed an extra point at that point. He'd already missed 2 field goal attempts. I couldn't believe, after not being able to get an inch on 2nd or 3rd down, at a yard on 3rd down after losing a yard, that you don't kick the field goal. It is amazing to me. But
it's mind-boggling. I've lost my mind. I just can't believe it, right? And here's the thing. They strip the ball out of Dallas Goedert. They don't recover it. But just say they kick the field goal and they strip the ball. Now you're in charge of the possession.
Yeah.
Right? But to me, this really came down to we're going to get another possession. Even if the Eagles score and they make it 18-13, right? Mm-hmm. They're going to go for 2. And if they don't get 2, if we win that 2-point play, then it's 18-13 and we score a touchdown and we got a chance to win this game. We got a chance to go up by 3 and we go for 2. That's the time to go for it. But you have to spin this thing forward. Look, I know it was a struggle for Washington to move the football all night. I know it was. And it wasn't a struggle for Philadelphia. Obviously, we saw what happened after the Reed Blankenship. I mean, Barkley has 2 big runs. They just we talked about it yesterday. The fourth quarter was going to decide the game because the Eagles were just a bigger, more physical team. And like all boxing matches, the later rounds determine the outcome. But to me, stupidity, we've lost our minds. We have lost our minds. I don't know what Dan Quinn said after the game. I didn't hear it. But to me, of course it's going to be fine because everybody thinks it's great to go for it on 4th down because everybody's playing Madden.
It's the hall pass of all hall passes. Everybody just says, no, it's the right decision. Let's hear from Dan Quinn, though, because I'm curious, too, to hear exactly what went into that thinking.
First, let's start off, biggest play, obviously, to go for it, and 4th down and 2 at the 26. Bold call, but I would also say we were prepared for that moment. Don't love the execution, but we've been an excellent 4th down team. So going into it, we knew we'd have to take our shots against a tough division team on the road. We thought that was an appropriate one. Certainly don't like the execution and the result, but we were prepared for that and being bold into those moments, knowing we'd have some 4th downs. But that's one we can fix.
It still doesn't make any sense. Yeah, don't like the execution. I agree. I'm not criticizing the result. I'm criticizing the decision.
Yep.
I'm criticizing the decision because you had 2 opportunities to get a yard. I mean, the 2nd down call. See, here's where I really have a problem. The 2nd down call was just an inside play, right? Mm-hmm. The 3rd down call. If you know you're going for it on 4th down, why put it all on a 4th down play? Tell them this was the first best team in the National Football League on converting 1st downs and 2 downs. I said that going into the game. So on 2nd down, if hey, Cliff, go. I want a 1st down here. You got to get me a 1st down here. I don't want to have to be in a position to go for it on 4th down. That's what a head coach is doing. That's what I was thinking to myself. Get the 1st down. Just get the 1st down. You ran that lead play inside, and it got blown up. Now it put a lot of pressure on your 3rd down call. And again, they tried to run it again and got nothing. I mean, at some point, you got to recognize you couldn't block that front, Dave. They couldn't block that. That Eagle front was kicking their butt. I mean, there's no way Washington's a legitimate playoff team with the left tackle. There's just no way. They have a horrible left tackle. They've gotten by with it for most of the year because the quarterback can move around, but people see that Coleman's not a good enough player. I know he's a 3rd-round pick this year, and they want him to be a good player, but he's not ready to be a starting left tackle in the National Football League. That's a huge liability over there. They signed Cornelius Lucas to be the guy from Chicago, but he's not very good either. This has been the problem with Washington, their offensive line. Look, they're trying to rebuild it. I get it. It's hard. But to me, they were getting their butts kicked up front. And then they couldn't get the ball to McLaurin. Let's be clear. They couldn't get the ball to their best player.
Yeah, 2 targets, only 1 catch for 10 yards for the entire game. Nothing in the first half. But, Michael, I couldn't agree with you more. And, again, I'm sure we'll get blasted on next. And again, you got it. When you can't get it on 2nd and 3rd down, and, again, it was 2nd and inches, and then it ends up being a 4th and 2, and it's a 2-point game in the 4th quarter, and their kicker is struggling. You take the lead and put some pressure back on the Eagles the whole game, and we've talked about this before. The analytics cannot judge momentum, and the momentum switched right at that play. And then the Eagles go right down the field and make it a 2-score game, 19-10, and for all intents and purposes, the game's over. So, like Dan Quinn,
it was over.
It was over.
And nobody. Same thing happened to the great Shane Steichen when he went for it on 4th and 2 at his own 20. And he had 2 minutes to go in the 3rd quarter, and he decides to go for it. He kicks that. It's 20-16, and now he's back. And, the game's not getting away from you. That's my point.
Right.
If you kick that field goal, the game isn't getting away from you. You don't have to decide the game on that play. That's the point I'm trying to make. Mm-hmm. The game is ongoing. You're in the game. Even if the Eagles go down and score, which was probably a good opportunity, you just say to yourself, okay, we're going to be down 18-13, or we're going to be down 20-13, and we can get right back in this game with a touchdown.
Yep.
Now the game becomes different. Remember, the 4th quarter is a standalone game, so you've got to operate that way. And I think, to me, you can sit there and say, I want to be aggressive. Yeah, I get it. I get to be aggressive, but don't be stupid.
Again, I look at it the exact same way. Cliff Kingsbury, I wonder if there's a bigger conversation here because look, he'd done a really good job up to this point. We do have, as Elliot Bowman, our producer, we were talking about before the show, Michael, there is evidence that you go back to his time, whether it's at Texas Tech, whether it's with the Arizona Cardinals, where it does look good for a while and then it doesn't look great. And even Dan Quinn kind of alluded to it, didn't like the execution. I don't know if he's criticizing the play call. I didn't like the play call on fourth down either, if you are going to go for it, which we would not have in the first place, would have kicked it. What do you make of Cliff Kingsbury and the way he called that game last night? Seemed a little tentative to me, like no shots down the field at all.
Yeah, it didn't look like first of all, they couldn't protect. I think he's worried about his left tackle. Let's be clear.
Yep.
Right, and I think, to me, Nolan Smith, whoever they put over there, Swift, Smith, it didn't matter. They were going to create a problem. I think that's what he was trying to avoid. And they don't really have a power run game. And look, let's face it now, 2 weeks in a row, teams have done a really good job on limiting the quarterback run. I mean, Daniels, what do you have? 7 carries for 18 yards.
Yeah.
See, to me, what we said yesterday is true, right? I mean, Pittsburgh's game plan is going to keep carrying over.
It's starting to happen there. So, again, Eagles do get the cover, 26-18. The under does hit with that total of 44 points here in that one. Much more to get on this game, Michael, and much more to look ahead to for Week 11 of the NFL. Come on back. It's the Lombardi Line.
Coming up Friday on Follow the Money, plenty of NFL. Mike Somich with picks and props, and the founder of Survivor Sweat, who also won Circus Survivor, are people selling entries and buying. Follow the Money weekdays, 4 to 7 Eastern on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
Want to see who at VSiN is on a hot streak? Go to VSiN.com/picks to see all the selections and weekly leaderboard of VSiN hosts, writers, and guests. Become a VSiN Pro subscriber and get every pick sent to your inbox daily. Just head to VSiN.com/pro.
So, Paulie, have you had a chance to read the VSiN Daily yet?
Yeah, came in at 3 a.m. What's Bill doing up that late?
Well, rumor has it starts off with a 12-hour meditation session.
Then he just pours himself over film and live TV, really focusing and taking it all in. Bill's in with the biggest insiders, talking trade secrets, strategies, the whole nine, absorbing the info.
And then and only then can the writing process begin.
In Las Vegas, Bill's late night becomes your early morning. Wake up to the very latest betting insights in your inbox with the VSiN Daily. Sign up for free at vsin.com/newsletter.
This is the Lombardi Line with former NFL executive Michael Lombardi on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
Football Friday edition of the Lombardi Line continues. Dave Ross and Michael Lombardi here with you. Got Thomas Gable is going to join us here in the next segment, Michael, from right there in the Borgata in New Jersey. Tim Murray is going to join us at the top of hour number 2 to talk some college football as well. A lot of good games on the slate this week. But we do want to get to some of these injuries, and there are some significant ones, and a couple that caught my eye, maybe positively and negatively. The one that I think is good news here is Kyle Hamilton for the Ravens. Now, he was limited in practice in this big showdown against the Steelers this week. Guys that did not practice in pretty important players, Sam Laporta, Dalton Kincaid, a couple of big tight ends there, Tank Bigsby for the Jags, and Devontae Adams didn't practice for the Jets. But when you see Kyle Hamilton back out there limited, does that tell you that you expect him to play a little bit? I know that we expect Lamar to play, even though he was limited in practice as well.
Yeah, I mean, Lamar's always limited. It's usually just rest related when you look at it. Yeah, I think this is probably the healthiest the Ravens have been all year, to be honest with you. I mean, he's limited with his ankle. That tells me he's going to go. I think, to me, they have no one else. Everybody else on their team is just limited. And now I think they're at full strength. I think the question's going to be, can this Raven pass defense pass muster? I mean, I think that's the key going into this Baltimore game with Pittsburgh. Can they play good enough defense? Can they play good enough defense in the fourth quarter? Are they going to be able to stop a passing game? Can they get a handle on Carl Pickens? George Pickens, excuse me. Carl Pickens was from another era of
I remember
of the
Carl
NFL.
very well with Cincinnati.
But I think that's it. Look, they need Hamilton. He's their joker in their defense. He does a lot of things for them. He can blitz. He can play the run. He can take tight ends out of the game. Freiermuth would be somebody that I think they would have to clamp down on. So, yeah, I think that's a really important injury for them to have back on their team.
We see that number. I did see some 3.5s yesterday for the Ravens, immediately back down to 3. So, unlike kind of the Eagle game last night, Michael, where those 3.5s ended up going to 4.5, this thing jumped right back down to 3 when those 3.5s posted. So, interesting there.
I don't see this going. I don't see this going to 3.5.
Right.
I'd be surprised. I think, to me, you want it. I think there's all the people that bet Mike Tomlin to not win many games this year are probably wanting to take Baltimore in this game because Pittsburgh on paper just doesn't look like it. But like we said yesterday, it's just one of those games where, they're tough, they're physical. They go back and forth. Special teams always has a role in the game. It always, whether Tyler Huntley was playing quarterback or Mitchell Trubisky, it's always kind of a back and forth game. No one seems to dominate the scoreboard here.
I see the Texans have some good news that Nico Collins was back, but he is limited in practice. Damian Pierce, their backup running back now, to Joe Mixon, was back as well. I didn't realize that Nico Collins would be this type of player, Michael, where it feels like, not that Joe Mixon is a big part of their offense. We get that year one for him coming over from Cincinnati. But Nico really does seem to be the difference maker for C.J. Stroud. Look, it's the Cowboys. It's Monday night. We're expecting a Texans victory. It's up to 7.5 here. But why is Nico Collins? What are you seeing in his play that really transforms that offense?
Well, I think what he does, Dave, is he takes the top off the defense and they can connect with them. They have a good connectivity. And they're able to, between what Stroud does and what Collins does, it gets them off. And it really makes things a lot easier for Stroud because the untold secret here so far this year is when you look at the analytical data on quarterbacking, I mean, Stroud is not having a very good year.
Right.
He is really not having the same kind of year that we're used to seeing. And he's down. He's 27th, Dave. He's actually below Will Levis in some statistical categories.
Whoa.
He's not playing as well. And maybe it's because of Nico not being in there. I think a lot of it is because of the offensive line. I don't think this is all on Stroud, but he's in the same company as Gardner Minshew. When you break down the EPA, composites, and all those numbers that people go through, success per play, I think, and you could see it on the tape, he's just not the same player that he was last year. I think the offense in Houston has become very generic. I think they haven't taken to the next step. They haven't really expanded what they want to do. They brought Kyle Shanahan's offense in, and it was really good. And they got away with a lot of things last year, playing against the level of comp. This year, defensive coordinators are well prepared for them. They understand how they want to handle it. And I think at the end of the day, they're having a hard time. And when they don't have pieces, and then they don't have offensive guy, they don't have the Nico Collins in this offensive line, it becomes a real issue. And it reflects on, it reflects on C.J. Stroud. But they have Dallas, Tennessee, and Jacksonville coming up. I mean, they should be 9-4 when they have their bye week.
Yeah, they should get healthy. Bad news for my Cowboys on Monday night. If Nico Collins can go and Dameon Pierce backing up Joe Mixon there. But there's a lot of injuries that we talked about.
But Dave, when you look at it, though, I mean, since the Buffalo game, and it was really a first half in Buffalo, they have not thrown the football very effectively over the five. I mean, they've had very bad games of throwing the ball, and they've turned it over, and they really haven't been able to run the football effectively. So this has not just been a fender bender here. This has been a pattern of bad play. Right, the only team that they won, they beat Indianapolis 23-20, and we know that game, right?
Yeah.
I mean, there was opportunities for Indy to win that game. They're 1-3 over the last 4 games, Dave.
Oof. And they did nothing in that second half after having that huge lead against the Lions on Sunday night. And I wonder if there's a little bit of a carryover effect for the Texans in that one. We mentioned the injury to Dalton Kincaid of the Bills. There's other injuries that we're going to break down now in our game of the week.
This is the Lombardi Line Game of the Week, presented by Lowe's. Here's Michael Lombardi.
Michael, it's been a lot of fun picking your brain on the biggest game of the week. That's the undefeated Chiefs, of course, going up to Orchard Park to take on the Bills. This number has gone back up to 2.5. Opened 1.5, 2.5 came back to 2, back up to 2.5. I'm a little surprised by that, but maybe because of some of this injury news. It's not just on the Buffalo side. With Dalton Kincaid not practicing, we know how important he is. They might not have Amari Cooper as well. Keon Coleman's already been ruled out of that game for the Bills. But how about this on the Chiefs side? Now, Isaiah Pacheco, good news is, limited in practice. We still don't know if he's going to go. But Harrison Butker all of a sudden has been placed on IR. And I know they're going to go, well, it's a kicker. You know, kicking in the NFL, as we kind of outlined here with Philadelphia and Washington last night, become very, very important in a lot of these games. And for a Chiefs team that plays a lot of one-score games and wins all those one-score games, Harrison Butker is a key cog. How significant could that be? And maybe it manifests itself a little bit Sunday in Buffalo.
I think it's critical, right? Because, look, we know this. When they played the playoff game, Dave, I think to me, when you watch Tyler Bass kick in the first quarter, that win was all over the place. Yeah. And he made it in the first quarter, but by the fourth quarter, he kicked in the same direction, and that ball just went from right to left or left to right in a hurry, and he didn't make it. It was ugly, right? So kicking in Buffalo, now they say there's only going to be 5-mile-an-hour winds, but look, that's a forecast, right? It's talking about Buffalo and Lake Erie. You know you're going to have more winds than 5 mile an hour. Never is it a calm day there. So I think to me it's huge. And look, this Kansas City team is very good. They're the best team in the National Football League on third down conversions. They can possess the football a lot. They want to control the ball. And they haven't been as good in the red zone as typically that we're used to seeing with them. But because of their ability to score, and Andy Reid will take opportunities and he'll kick, they're able to keep adding points because their defense. They're 17th in the National Football League in red zone. So this isn't like they're lights out here. And I think, to me, they rely on that field goal kicker. Let's face it. I mean, when you have a great kicker and you can make all those and you make those kicks, I mean, right now, he was just 2 for 4 on 50-yard kicks, but where he was really good is he didn't miss anything outside of 50 yards.
Right. Inside
of 50 yards, I'm sorry.
Yeah, a real weapon there with Butker that they're going to be out for at least, about 4 games now here as he goes on the on injured reserve. We're making this out to be a massive game. It is a massive game. I wonder if Josh Allen feels the same. Let's hear from the Buffalo quarterback. You are going to hear from him.
This week? It's a Week 11 game. It's no bigger and no less than the last 10 games that we've had, and that's I know the media perception and the fan perception and what this game means, but for us, it's just Week 11 for us.
I think that's Sean. What he's saying there is Sean McDermott's message to the team. Fellas, look, let's not make this game bigger than it is. It's a Week 11 game. It's an important game. It's a great rivalry, but let's not blow this thing up, because what happens next week after Week 11 is Week 12. There's no end of the season. There's no seeding and playoffs. There's none of that. It is strictly just a Week 11 game. Let's move on. Let's go forward. And I think that's the right messaging, right? Because, look, we're all going to sit here and say, if he loses, can Sean McDermott beat Andy Reid? We know that they do it in the regular season. So this game has nothing to do with anything other than positioning for the playoffs. And let's take it in that vein, and let's enjoy it, right? It's going to be a fun game to watch.
Love it. That is our Lowe's game of the week. And, again, sometimes it feels like a bad bet to go against Patrick Mahomes, but the number is going towards Buffalo at 2.5. Come on back. We got Thomas Gable from the Borgata next here in the Lombardi Line.
You spoke, we listened. Introducing the all-new VSiN Watch app. Now, you can watch and listen to VSiN expert analysis live wherever you are. Missed a show? No problem. Catch replays of VSiN's full lineup at any time. View highlights sorted by sport. Or use the search feature to find specific teams and topics you're looking for. And the best part? It's free for a limited time. Download the VSiN Watch app today. Available now on the App Store and Google Play. And join us on the Sports Betting Network.
This is VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
This is the Lombardi Line with former NFL executive Michael Lombardi on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
It is the Lombardi Line. Dave Ross and Michael Lombardi here with you on a Friday. Always love catching up with Thomas Gable from the Borgata in New Jersey. Does a great job there as the sports director and joins us, sportsbook director, and joins us now on the Progressive Guest Line. And Thomas, we've already been talking about that Eagle and Commanders game last night. We saw the number, stay there 3.5 most of the week, and then right before kickoff, 4s and even 4.5s there. So it felt like we're trying to find some people to back the Commanders. How did you guys fare there last night? And boy, it was dicey for about 3 quarters until the Eagles pulled away late.
It was. I mean, the Commanders, I think, did as much as they could do. It's tough. I mean, the Eagles really took away McLaurin. I thought, the fact that he only had 2 targets, 1 catch. Mm-hmm. The defense for Philadelphia again stepped up, and they have been consistently playing so much better since the bye week. Carter has been great. The secondary has been tremendous. So for the Eagles, I think it was all coming up roses. Obviously, they took control of the game in the fourth quarter. And, Barkley obviously broke off a few big plays there to break it open. And, Barkley, I'll say this for Barkley, as somebody who's talented as he is, I mean, you can just tell by his reactions, and especially on the sideline, he seems to really be having a lot of fun playing in Philly at this point. He seems to really love his teammates and just is enjoying the experience of being in Philadelphia. That's really coming across at this point. And, why not? He's finally playing behind a good offensive line, and he has other weapons there that Jalen Hurts can go to. So, everything's looking pretty good for Philly, with the exception last night. And Michael, I wanted to get your take on this. Obviously, it's just one-off game, and he's had a great career. Is there any concern here about Jake Elliott going forward? I mean, we don't want to see any weak spots here for the Eagles if they're going to keep up with Detroit and challenge them for NFC supremacy. And obviously, the kicking game is super important. Any reason for concern after that performance from Jake Elliott last night?
Well, when you don't have a 50-yard kicker, which obviously the Eagles don't have right now, it's always a concern. I mean, to me, look, the Eagles don't need any excuses to go for it on fourth down. They love it more than anybody. So it may just change your mindset. Like, why am I trying a 50-yarder when 4th and 2, just give the ball to Barkley and he'll make a play? But I do think in these close games, as we get to playoff time, it will become a factor. But kickers, I mean, the same problems in Baltimore, TG, with Justin Tucker. He's not the Justin Tucker that we know and remember. He's really struggling as much as anyone. So they go through these periods where, they have moments. I mean, Nick Folk went through it a bunch, and now all of a sudden he hasn't missed one under 50 yards in forever. So I just think it's one of those areas where you have to go through it. And, I don't know if I wouldn't call it growing pains because they're all grown up, but they're slumps. I mean, and if it becomes the yips, then you got to make a change.
Well, that's what I think the concern is. Like, it's like a golfer going through having, the putting yips. And obviously, like you said, if this seems to continue, I think they're going to have to at least move on a little bit here from them.
No, well, like last weekend, I mean, if Jake Moody doesn't make the last kick against the Bucs, I don't think Jake Moody's on the 49ers this week. Ooh. I mean, they were ready to have a revolt on that field. Yeah. We saw Debo go crazy. It's too important. The games are too close. The margins are too small. And you have to really understand it. Dave mentioned this morning, I didn't see it because maybe I wasn't paying attention, but where did you end up closing on this game? I always think the 3.5's a fake trap, TG. I always think that your book wants you to take it, and it really never pans out that well. What was the closing number for you here?
We closed 4.5, and we probably got a little bit higher earlier than most books, just because of the fact that we were taking a lot of Eagles money. What saved us was the total not going over. So that certainly helped, and in game as well came out pretty good for us. But yeah, I mean, if you're just looking at the side pregame, we lost to that because there was a ton of Eagles support at 3.5, and I thought 3 was probably the right number. Got to 3.5, obviously, and then the Eagle money just kept coming, even laying the 3.5, and heck, even at 4.5, they were laying it. So and they all got paid.
I almost took a nibble at the Commanders plus 4.5. I'm so glad I didn't, but that trap was out there. I'm like, man, it felt good for 3/4 if you're a Commander backer. Big fourth quarter, obviously, with the 3 touchdowns for the Eagles to get the money. Thomas, now that the Eagles are off the board for this week, I'm going to assume that you're getting a lot of action maybe on the Steelers and the Ravens in that big one on the 1 o'clock Eastern tilt here on Sunday, or is there other games that are starting to really move the numbers?
Yeah, I mean, the Ravens-Steelers is going to probably be the most heavily bet game of the early slate, and then obviously the big one at 4:25 local time with the Chiefs and Bills. Mm-hmm. We'll see plenty of action as well. But, yeah, in terms of the Ravens-Steelers game, Ravens laying 3 right now, and that's pretty much across the board. And a little bit more money right now on the Ravens. Not too much of a decision currently in that one. And then Chiefs and Bills. We opened the Bills a 1.5 favorite there at home, and it's gone as high as 2.5. Now back to 2. You can still find some 2.5s out there at other shops. We're sitting at 2 currently in that one, but I think the concern here, it comes back again to the kicking game that Chiefs Bucker now gone, so it's like, well, what's going to happen here, and that's going to be a key piece, especially as Michael said in these close games. This is anticipated to be a close game. We know the history between these two teams. And I just think without him, I mean, this is I'm not surprised that you're starting to see this number move just a slight bit towards the Bills.
TG, I mean, we know it's Week 11 in the NFL, but the biggest betting area has been the Jake Paul, Mike Tyson. I know Dave's on the edge of his seat
I can't wait.
On this one. And so... why don't you handicap it, and then Dave can give you what he thinks is going to happen?
Well, yeah, I mean, listen, I'll say this. Right now, we have more money written on this fight than any NFL game on the board on Sunday. So take that for what it's worth. Jake Paul currently $1.90 favorite. Now, when this fight was supposed to happen back in July, it was originally scheduled for July, and then Tyson had the health problem that pushed it to today, to tonight. I thought if it had happened in July, with the way that the sports calendar was, we probably would have written 4 to 5 times more than what we're doing today, and that'd be something. But just because of the fact that there wasn't much going on outside of baseball in July, now it's truly incredible the advance handle that's coming in on this. As you know, both of you know, Mike Tyson, during his heyday, had a ton of big fights in Atlantic City. He still has a ton of fans in this area. There's a nostalgia for Mike. There is a lot of people coming out and betting on Tyson for this. They think he's going to be able to turn back the hands of time here. And, I think the smarter money is certainly on Jake Paul at the present time. But the volume of bets is coming in on Mike. And that seems to be the case here when you're talking to other people across the country. That certainly seems to be the case across the country as well. They're just getting an influx of Tyson bets. The bigger bets do seem to be coming in on Paul, and certainly the sharper money seems to be coming in on Paul.
He's 58 years old, Thomas. Can you believe that in the year of our Lord 2024, you're booking a Mike Tyson fight and getting the kind of action and the handle that you have on this thing?
It's just incredible. The last time we saw Tyson was in that kind of exhibition match against Roy Jones, if you remember. But, it has not it's just kind of unfathomable that here we are, November 2024, and we're talking about Mike Tyson taking a ton of money in a boxing match.
It's insane. And, again, I just look at it 2 ways. That if it's a real fight, like a real fight, then you'd have to back Tyson. But, Thomas, you mentioned it before we began the segment. The gloves are going to be massive, right? It's on Netflix. It kind of feels like a show to me. I mean, does that factor in?
Rounds.
2-minute rounds, right?
2-minute rounds, yeah. Yep. And I think, again, what kind of condition, obviously Tyson appears to be in great shape, but as you get further on in the fight, what kind of conditioning is Mike going to be in? Now, it is only 2-minute rounds, but, is he going to be able to last? And that seems to be the consensus, the common consensus from everybody seems to be, well, if Tyson can catch him in the first or second round, okay, then that's the way he wins this fight. If this goes on to the later rounds, probably not going to necessarily go Mike's way.
This is insane. But here we are, America. Cannot wait to see it. I'm going to watch.
Love it.
Thomas, we appreciate your time as always. Thanks for hopping on the Progressive Guest Line with us.
All right. Thanks, guys.
If you want to bet on those horses, not Jake Paul or, Mike Tyson, you've got real ponies that you can bet at First Bet. So it's a U.S.-based company, offers wagers on hundreds of races every day from across the country and around the world. You sign up at firstbet.com. That's the number one, stbet.com. Use that promo code VSiN200. You're going to claim a 20% rebate for your first 60 days up to $200. Head over to firstbet.com and do so today. Much more NFL talk. We'll continue it next here on the Lombardi Line.
Got a good thing coming, just wait and see. It's a good.
Join us on a numbers game where Gil Alexander takes you on an informative and entertaining ride, focusing on the numbers that fuel today's bettors.
The Pittsburgh defense is amazing. I'm not doubting that. You think it's impressive, but you don't get how impressive it is. Okay, Mr. Football, we get it. Why do we bet baseball and tennis and other things? Because this league is Meshuggah.
He sets the table as the money comes in each day, helping you become a sharper bettor. Catch a numbers game weekdays at 10 a.m. Eastern, only on VSiN, the sports betting network.
This is the Lombardi Line with former NFL executive Michael Lombardi on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
Back here on the Lombardi Line, Dave Ross and Michael Lombardi here with you. Great having Thomas Gable on in the last segment. We're going to have Tim Murray in the next segment to kick off hour number 2. We'll talk a lot of college football.
You didn't answer are you betting? Did you go to your little shop and bet? Did you bet Mike Tyson?
Okay, Michael, and here's the deal. Right here behind me at Circa, you see all these great numbers behind me, right? The money's coming in on Mike Tyson. So I want to root for Mike Tyson, Michael, because of nostalgia and, that's part of my youth. And,
of course.
Right? But really, if you made me bet it, you would have to bet the Paul side, wouldn't you? Because this isn't a
You've
fight.
Got to, right?
Yes, this is a Netflix show. This isn't a fight. If they were fighting where you are in Jersey or with Thomas on the boardwalk in Atlantic City, okay, and they were just fighting to fight, I'd take Mike Tyson to win that. But if we got pillows on our hands and we got 2-minute rounds, I can't take this seriously. I want to take it seriously, but I can't. And I'm sorry, I would have to bet the Paul side. I'm not going to bet it, though, Michael. I think I'm just going to watch it and root for Mike Tyson. But I still can't believe we're talking about this in 2020. I can't believe this is happening. This is a 50.
I can't believe that the medical association is going to let this guy fight at 58 years old. I mean, we're talking about Aaron Rodgers' career being over at 41, and Mike Tyson's going to go box 17 years to his senior. I mean, come on.
This is where we are, America. Again, I'm not hating on it. I'm going to watch it. But again, I'm
not hating on it either.
Right.
I'm actually going to watch. I mean, it's, I'll come off the Lincoln Lawyer and I'll watch it. Since I'm on Netflix, I might as well do it, right?
It's going to be the best thing on Netflix in quite some time. Let's get to our game here on a Friday. We like to play different game or more of the same. And let's start off with the Niners because, you watch that game. You mentioned it with Thomas in the last segment too. But you had kicking issues there for San Francisco last week with Jake Moody. And he makes the last kick to get the win. But the offense did look better. And we kind of thought they would look better against Tampa Bay last week. So only 23 points, but they did rack up over 400 yards, almost 7 yards per play, 24 first downs. Will we see a different game this week or more of the same for the Niners kind of with CMC back?
I think we're going to see a better game from the Niners. I think they'll probably, when you watch that Tampa tape, the first half, Brock Purdy was not very good. The second half, he was outstanding. He had the most quietest 300-yard passing day I've ever seen in my life. But they started to get into a rhythm. This interesting team that they're getting ready to play, the Seattle Seahawks, they cut their leading tackler. Terrell Dotson got cut. He's now on the Miami Dolphins, who got claimed by them. They cut David Long, one of their high-profile linebackers, who is a runaround guy but has a hard time taking people on. But Dotson had 71 tackles, 41 solo, 30 assists. They traded Jerome Baker. They got rid of Terrell Dotson, and now they've tried to change their linebacker situation, and we'll see if it works out. I think what they've done is they feel like that's something that they need to improve upon. And, we'll see if it can actually help them. But I think that's going to be the concern, especially against when you play a good team like San Francisco. Seattle's defense has not been somewhat. It's been disappointing to me because I fully expect Mike McDonald to go in there and play better run defense, and that hasn't happened. They're 26 in yards allowed, 26 in yards per attempt. They're 23rd in points allowed. They're just not good enough. And then one of the things they don't do very well is they don't turn the ball over. So they're good on offense. We'll have Metcalf back. But the other problem with Seattle is, which is shocking to me, is they are the 31st team in the league in terms of rushing attempts, passing attempts in the first half. They throw it more in the first half than they run it, and they have Kenneth Walker. Why would you do that? Why would you do that?
Yeah, very interesting. And again, I'm with you. If you don't possess the football here and you keep putting that Niner offense back on the field, you probably will see more of the same. So it's interesting what's going on in the Pacific Northwest. Kind of expected more. I know I'm with you. First-year head coach, but good pedigree from the Harbaugh tree, but it's not manifesting itself so far, at least not on defense. Patriots defense, Michael, is looked pretty good, right? It looked good last week, certainly against the Bears. Now it was the Bears. So will it be more of the same or a different game this week against the Rams because they really stifled, well, let's be honest, a bad Bears offense right now?
look, I think you have to be really careful when you watch when you evaluate these teams. It's level of comp, right? And so the last 2 weeks we saw the Tennessee Titans play against the Patriots. They put 400 yards of offense against the Patriots. Nobody wants to talk about that. We just talk about the Bears game, right? That Tennessee Titan game with Mason Rudolph under center and a bad offensive line put 400 yards on them, 167 rushing, 233. To me, this is a game where the Rams can get healthy. I think the Rams will move the football effectively. Every time they've played a good passing team, they have struggled. And I think, to me, that when they played San Francisco, they threw for 283. Now, I know the Rams have to go across country, but this is make or break time for the Rams. And I like the Rams here. The line was at 4.5. It's down to 4. I think, to me, the Rams front, their defensive front, will create problems for Drake May. And I think this Ram offense will move the football effectively.
Yeah, something you talk about a lot, which I really like, which is courage of your conviction. Even though the number might be going the other way, I'm with you on that. That doesn't bother me at all if I only have to lay 4 versus a 4.5 from earlier in the week. Kind of see it the same way, and I love the way you get inside the numbers with the different levels of comp. Not very good last week. You mentioned that Jags offense, or the Jaguars, by the way, last week against the Vikings, it was dismal. And now they're going to go up against the line. So I wonder if it's going to be a different game or more of the same. Look what they did or were not able to do last week against Minnesota here for those of you at VSiN.com. And again, you should be a VSiN Pro subscriber by now. 7 points scored. That's it. Only 143 total yards, Michael. You turn it over 3 times with Mac Jones. Is it going to look more of the same against Detroit or maybe a little bit different?
More of the same. Yeah, Bigsby's questionable whether he plays. They ran for 56 yards against the Vikings. They ran for 60 against the Eagles. Look, the Detroit, they have the bye week coming up. They're going to need the bye week. I mean, this is going to be a hard game for Doug Peterson. Does he get fired during the bye week? They have 6 games left. I mean, right now they're 2-8. If they lose this game, they're 2-9. And this was, as Shah Khan said during the summer, this is the best team he's been a part of. So, and you could see how testy Doug Peterson was with the media about not wanting to explain a play and all those things. So, yeah, I think we're going to get more of the same. I mean, why wouldn't they? Detroit's playing really good on defense.
Yeah, I think you're right. And it just feels like maybe this would be the time Shad Khan would make those moves during the bye. If it looks more of the same, that could be a real possibility. By the way, again, VSiN Pro subscribers, if you have not signed up yet, please do so. You get daily best bets. You're going to get a leaderboard showing you which VSiN expert has got the hot hand. It's 19 hours of live programming. You're going to get power, strength, and better ratings here, plus our exclusive betting splits. Very important. It shows you where the trends and the analysis. It's going to make you a better. So get that VSiN Pro subscription today for as little as $9.99. That's when you sign up. It's at VSiN.com/subscribe. That's VSIN.com/subscribe. One more I want to get to here, whether it's going to be a different game or more of the same, and that's the Jets defense. What has happened to this Jets defense? I mean, Michael, in the desert last week, the other desert, not ours here in Vegas, 31 points allowed in Arizona. You gave up over 400 total yards, 7.1 points yards per play. You didn't even get a turnover. And in the red zone, awful. You gave up 4 of 5 opportunities, touchdowns to the Cardinals. Is it going to be different against the Colts or more of the same?
Past performance predicts future achievement. They've only forced 1 turnover in the last 5 weeks. They've only had 1 game where an opponent hasn't run the ball for 100 yards on them. I mean, this defense is probably, we've overrated it, whether it's CPA, whatever it is, whatever the numbers are, everybody has overrated it. And I think they have a bye next week too, the Jets. Thank God we won't get them on television. Remember, this game was supposed to be our Sunday night game, David.
Right.
They flexed this bad boy out, thankfully, right? This is going to be, we're going to have the Jets in our living room again. So look, this team they're not good. I mean, at what point do we need to be convinced they're not good? They've been showing us they're not good. They haven't scored more than 24 points since they beat New England 24-3. They can't score, right? They have a hard time playing great defense. They gave up 37 to Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh doesn't want. They scored 31 to Arizona. I think, to me, weather's not going to be a factor in this game. I don't believe. I think it's going to be a nice day there. I don't see why everybody is on. I don't see why this number. I know why the number moved initially because of the change to Richardson. But this is going to be a 60-degree day, wonderful day in New York, no wind. I mean, if this is a day that the Colts better come and play, they got a chance to win this game.
You can't see him here, Michael, but Elliot Bowman, our producer, is wearing his Anthony Richardson 5 jersey to work today. So I don't know if he's taking the 4.
Of course he is.
But he's serious. He's fired up, ready to go. Repping AR5 for the Colts here, getting the 4 in Jersey against the Jets. I think that might be the side I'd end up on if you made me wager on this game. But the Jets are just, I cannot trust that defense any longer. So maybe Richardson can look like
of course you can't.
You can't trust him, right? So I'd probably have to settle on the 4.
You can't trust the whole Jet organization. Remember, thinking's overrated, Dave.
That's it. That's why you go for it all the time, like the Commanders did. When we come back to begin hour number 2, Michael, we're going to have Tim Murray to talk some college football. That is next here on the Lombardi Line.
Sports bettors, this is your chance. VSiN is bringing you an unbeatable deal. Get a VSiN Pro